All right, guys. So I noticed the HTML videos that I posted. I posted those in 2016, and I never posted the CSS. It is now 2020. I am just not realizing that, so I just re-recorded. I'm just going to re-record the CSS portion. So what we have been creating so far, this is the HTML to our document. I can pull this out so you can see it. So this is what we have so far. And remember, I preach it, that the HTML is the most important part of your document. You want to make sure that your HTML is solid so that when you, so that if anything happens and your CSS isn't working, the user who comes to see your site gets all the information that they need. For instance, in here, to get the contact information, they get the links to the website, and they get all of the information that they need to get, because that is the most important part. Every website is created for some type of information, whether it's to sell information, whether it's to give information, whether it's a call to action, whether it's to showcase your skills or your portfolio. Regardless, all websites have a purpose, and they're going to get that information and that purpose from your HTML. So your structure has to be solid. Now that we have a solid structure, now we can actually go into building the CSS for it, kind of whipping it with the pretty stick. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so I'm going to move that back over here. All right, so we have this solid HTML, and just so that you guys don't have to watch me go through the pain of it, you will have to watch me type some, but I've already linked the style sheet because you guys already know how to do that. And pretty much all you're doing is, oops, that's the wrong style sheet. All you're doing is linking that style sheet. So you'll notice that with this one, I don't have the style sheet in a folder. That's because when I teach at the library, it's a fast class and we don't have a lot of time to go over putting it in a folder, but yours will be in the CSS folder. So you'll do yours the same way as you always have. So this is the global CSS style sheet, and everything else, you should have gotten that information from the last two videos on the HTML. This video is all about that CSS, yo. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go to CSS, and I have already put in my declarations. So the only part that you really have to watch me type is when we actually start putting in the rules for each declaration. So I'll start off with body, and I'm going to give it a background color. Now this time I'm using hexadecimal codes because I have precise colors that I want to use. So this is hexadecimal code 281 DLC. I'm going to save that, refresh here. And so this is just pretty much the background color for the body. I hope I did that right. I think, L, sorry. D1C. And now we should see a change happen. Okay. And as you can see, the background of the body turned brown. Okay. So I have it over here and it's pretty small and it's okay. I just have it so that we can see some type of feedback as we're doing stuff. All right. So I'm going to set the font family for this. Oops. The font family for this is, now, cool. So we're going to create what's called a font stack. So when you are using fonts in HTML, what happens is, remember I said the browser reads the fonts from the bottom up. So the browser's going to read these fonts, right? I have font family. So what's going to happen is, sorry, not bottom up. In this one, the browser's going to, whatever font you put in first. So let's say you put in Gil Sans. If you chose this one, it's going to look for Gil Sans. If it can't find Gil Sans, it's going to look for Gil Sans MT. If it can't find Gil Sans MT, it's going to look for Myriad Pro. If it can't find that, it's going to look for Deja Vu Sans Condenser. If it can't find that, it's going to look for Helvetica. If it can't find that, it's going to look for Ariel. and so forth and so on. And if it can't find anything, then it's going to go to your computer's default fonts. These are called font stacks, where you can tell it, oh, I would like to use this font. If you can't find that one, use this font. If you can't find that one, use this font. If you can't use it, so forth and so on. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to Manage Fonts if you're in Dreamweaver. And so we have options in here. We have Adobe fonts that we can actually use. So you'll see Adobe Edge Web Fonts. You can go to local web fonts where you actually search for the names of your fonts, or you can do custom font stacks, which is the one that we're going to do. So the custom font stacks, the fonts we're looking for Helvetica. You'll see that this is listed in alphabetical order. You could also just type it down here. So really, once we type Helvetica, we should see it. And you can, once you have it in here, you can click on this little arrow to put it in there. So there's our first font, Helvetica. The next font that we're going to look for, oh, actually, I want a Helvetica new. Sorry. So, all right. So I'll put a font in here that I didn't want. All I have to do is highlight it and bring it back, and it's going to put it. So I just clicked on the arrow to put it back. And notice the arrows are going in the direction of where they would go. So I'm going to choose Helvetica new. And I'm going to put that one over there. Next is Helvetica. I just want to make sure it's following the proper stack. After that, if they can't find Helvetica new, can't find Helvetica, let's try Gotham. Okay. And if it's not on your computer, then that just means you don't have the font. But you can write that in. So you can actually write this font in, and we will. So the next one is Ariel. Also, the thing to know too is that each font goes in here and is separated by a comma. Fonts that have two names, like for instance, sans serif, is going to be separated by the dash, because remember, the browsers, the internet does not read spaces well. That's where it puts that 20% symbol, or the percent symbol with the 20, because that is the code for space. So just so you know, so I'm going to hit done. And then what's going to happen is I'm not going to see it. And you're like, well, what did you just do that for? So I'm going to go back, because what happens is I created it, but I didn't select it. And all I have to just go down here and select it. And now I have the font family that I want. So remember, there was one font that it did not take in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to that I did not have on my computer. And I'm going to type this in just to show you that you can just go ahead and type in the font. So right after Helvetica was Gotham, and I just type in Gotham and put the comma. So another thing to note as well. So I have, my mouse is going crazy. So I have this font family, Helvetica new, and I just told you that you would separate the font families, or you would unite the font families that have two words with a dash. But if you look up here, this one doesn't have that dash. And the reason is fonts also, you have to go by whatever the maker of the font named it, or it's not going to be able to find that font. So the way around that is to put those fonts in quotes. So inside of these quotes is Helvetica new, because it is a string. So now it reads this string with the space, and it knows, oh, I got to find Helvetica new, but it has to be inside of quotes in order for the browser to find it. Now, also down here is in quotes. This one really doesn't have to be in quotes, but I think it's for consistency that is in quotes. All right. So next rule that we want to set up is our font size. And remember, so I typically do not give what's called a fixed font size or fixed size because I kind of want the fonts to grow. But since it's in body, all I'm doing is setting a standard, like setting a default size. So since it's in body, I'll set the font size 16 pixels. And what this is going to do is every other font, when I put percentages, it's going to be a percentage of the 16 pixels. Now, technically, I didn't have to put anything in here because by default, that is the body has a default font size, which is 16 pixels currently, but I like to stay consistent and I like to make sure that I always set that. Plus, if I want to go higher, like a larger number, I'd want to make sure that I set it here as well. All right, so I'm going to change the color because against that brown, we can't see anything. So the color is going to be FFF, which is white. All right, and so what I'm about to set for you designers, because design was a prerequisite, so I want to make sure that you know. So I'm going to set some leading. I'm going to set some kerning. So in between each letter, I want there to be some spacing. So in the design programs or Microsoft Word and stuff like that, it's called kerning. But in the web world, it is called letter spacing. So that is the, go ahead and add some letter spacing. Okay, and it's going to be 0.09 EM. And we talked about EM tonight in class. EM is the width of the M. So if it's Helvetica new, it's going to be the width of that M in spacing. So that's the letter spacing. All right. And then I'm just going to set margin and padding to 0. And also remember, 0, so when you're in HTML, you can actually get away with typing 0 and not putting PX or anything after it because 0 is universally 0. So no matter what measurement you use, no metrics you use, it is always going to be 0. So there's really no dire need to have pixels or m's or percentages and stuff like that because 0 is always 0. So now if I refresh this, you'll start to see some of that we set up is starting to show. So body is all the text is turning white. It's got the color that we said. It's following the Helvetica new font. It's applying the rule of the letter spacing, the spacing in between the letters, giving it some breathing room, and the margin and padding are 0. See, that's why it's up to the edge. All right, so I think that's all I want to do in that one. In H2, let's go ahead and start building this out. So we got our contact info. Remember, this is going to be our sidebar. Right now, it's following HTML structure where it is stacking boxes, as it should be. It's stacking boxes. Good, HTML, good. All right, so off the bat, I do want to give that my H2 tag. I want to give it some letter spacing. I'm going to give it 0.2 EM. And then font variant. So the font variant is pretty much whether I want it to be all caps, small all caps, and things like that. So I'm going to do font variant. And so, and if you ever wonder what anything is, there it is. Normal, small cap, and inherit. I'm going to go small cap. I thought it was all caps, so maybe not. All right, so small caps. All right, so the font size for this, I want it to be a little different. So just so we can see what happens. This is the area that we're affecting over here. Okay, we're not gonna see a change yet because I haven't set it to change. All right, I haven't saved it. Okay, so our font variant. Let's go ahead and do the font size. Oops. Font size. I'm gonna give it 200 pixels. I'm sorry, 200%. We'll see how that looks in a moment. All right, so let's give it a background color. And then as we go down, I might, some of the rules that are pretty much the same, I might go ahead and do the copy and paste so you can see it, so that you don't have to watch me type. But we'll see. I don't know. I say that now, but I might not. All right, so let me give this a hexadecimal 1A 3845. And if you ever wonder where in the world am I getting these numbers for, what I'll typically do is when we get into Photoshop, you guys will see I'll mock it up in Photoshop and I'll get the numbers for the hexadecimal numbers, which are these numbers from Photoshop that I want to use in my page. So that's where they're coming from. All right, background color. Let's give it some padding. I'm going to use percentages with the padding. I'm going to go 1% for the top. And remember, so this is treble, TRBL. So if I only have two numbers in here, then the first number is representing the top and bottom, and the second number is representing the left and right. All right, so I'm saying 1% on the top and bottom, 4% left and right. Then I'll give it a border radius around the H2, around the box. All right, so border radius, I'm going to say 20 pixels. I'm going to save that. And let's preview what that's going to look like. And look at that. And just like that, you see how the H2, so everything where there's an H2, you have like this rounded corners. You got some padding. And it's starting to shape up, right? It's starting to shape up. We're starting to see our section come together. All right. So awesome. Okay. So let's go ahead and set up our heading area. All right. And this is going to be where we start to set up our first float. So we're going to start to see, and I am going to do another video on float. I did talk about floating tonight with the class, but I forgot to record. So I'm just going to make another video that just talks about float. All right. So I got the width at 22%. So I'm going to set up a minimum height. And what this means is exactly what it says, the minimum height that I want the head area to be, right, is going to be 1400 pixels. And we'll see that in action in just a moment. Let me go ahead and set up the padding. Again, I'm going to set up the top and bottom and the left, right and left. Okay, so right now that's 20 pixels. If I kept it at one number, it would be on all four, but I'm not. I'm going to do 4%. And I'm actually going to shake this up just a little bit. So now what I've done is I've decided that I'm going to do 20 pixels on the top. And so I decided I wanted a different one for the top and the bottom. So I have 20 pixels on the top. If I have three numbers, this is what I'm representing. And then this middle number is going to represent the left and the right at 4%. And then the bottom, I didn't want any padding. So the bottom's going to be 0. Okay, TRBL, right? This is representing both numbers. So this is the top, left and right, and bottom. All right. I've then set my font color to white. I set margin to 0. I think I want, let me refresh so you can see what's happening so far. All right, so this is the heading area right here. And pretty much I've said, okay, well, I want the heading area to have, oh, there it is, sorry. I want the heading area to have, to be 22 in width. I want the minimum height to be 1400 pixels. I want the padding, and you see it's coming off the edge, to be 20 pixels on the top, 4 pixels on the left and right, and 0 pixels on the bottom. And I want the color to be white and the margin to be 0. Okay, so we got a few more things that we need to do to this one, but I just wanted to do a quick check of where we are. All right, so text alignment. Oops. Text alignment, I'm going to say center. And font weight. So now the font weights we're used to bold, but the font weights actually go from 100. Some fonts, depending on the font, can go from 100 to 900. Can be bolder. It can inherit qualities. It can be lighter, or it can be normal. So I always play with these weights until I get something that I really want. Right, so if I save this right now, okay, so you see now it's starting to shape up. I just gave it the weight. It's no longer bold. Um, it's looking kind of good. It's got those horizontal rules in there. All right. So the next thing that I want to do is I'm going to float it. Whoa. So what a float does is really just allows you to float something to the left or the right or something. So in structure, right, everything that we've been building pretty much stacks one on top of the other. But when you float it, you're saying, oh, nope, this is going to be anchored to the left. And now I'm allowing other things to come up and be beside me. Because remember, we're dealing with block elements for the most part in what we're doing. So that means that the block element goes the entire width of the browser's window. Well, and when you add a float to it, it's before you add a float to it, nothing can come up beside it. When you add a float, you're saying, "Hey, I'm pinning myself to the left. Now I'm allowing other things to come up beside me." It'll make more sense in the next video, the video I do. Okay, so I'm gonna say float of left. I'm gonna save that, and stuff might go crazy, and that's okay, as it did, right? So now what's happening is, oh my gosh, this is pinned to the left. Everything is coming up to the left of it, but it's looking kind of crazy, and that's because now everything's following whatever the last element that was following the stacking order. It's ignoring float and following the last element that had a stacking order. But we're going to fix that. We're going to fix it. So I'm going to go heading area. I'm going to target the class of business. So I'm going to target that image right there. So in order to target it, we saw it's a class. So that means I need to hit, oops. Actually, I should have, remember I have all the declarations. Boom. Okay. All right. So the class of business. In this one, I want to set the width and the height. So I'm going to do 80%. Height, 80%. Okay. I'm going to give it a border radius. I get a border radius of, let's try this. I get a border radius of 50%, which is really a circle. So what I'm targeting right now is this image right here. Okay. And so what I'm saying is, hey, I want the width of this image to be 80% by 80%. And I want a border radius around it of 50%. Now you guys know one of my favorite radius is about 20%. 50% makes this a circle. So it's kind of cool. So I'm going to save that just so you can see what happens. And I'm going to refresh. And now you see that the image is up here in kind of an oval. And it's following our width, our height, and our border radius. What? So sweet. I know. It's so cool. Okay. It's awesome. All right. So the next thing I'm going to do is give it kind of a drop shadow. So I want like a little drop shadow under it. So I'm going to call box dash shadow. This is how you call to drop shadow in CSS. Box shadow. And what I want to tell it is I got to tell it that what I want the offset to be, what I want the blur to be, what I want the bottom and left, no, bottom and right offsets, the blur, and the color. All right. So I'm going to go with 3 pixels, 3 pixels, 5 pixels, and orange. When I save that and we refresh it, you'll start to see there's the offset on the bottom, the offset on the right. The color is orange and it's blurred. Pretty cool. And I always encourage students to play. So like if you want to see what actually, let me close this. If you want to see stuff in effect, then just play, right? So just go here, make it 23, just so you can see what happens. And then you'll be able to see, oh, this first number represents the right? Because that's what we did. And we were able to move it over. So I'm going to put that back. Then you can say, the second number represents the bottom, right? Because you see it moving. So if you ever question what anything does, just put a crazy number in there, check it out, and you'll see. Now you can say, oh, that's what the blur is, and then the color orange, okay? So I'm going to delete that, save that. All right. All right, so our heading area is down here. Our heading area H3, okay. All right, so what we want to do with this one is we're going to give it a font variant, small caps, close that one. I'm going to give it a font size of 145%. And letter spacing of 0.1 em. And even with the M's, if you want to see something go crazy, hang on, I'll show you. Why does that keep going on? All right, if you want to see something go crazy, play with these M's. Like put a 1 before it. Oh my gosh, it's about to be crazy. All right? And then you can see how it spaces out ridiculously. But if you ever want to test it. Play and see what happens when you do certain things. How does that interact? So always. All right, so now what we're gonna play with is letter spacing and line height. So the line height is your leading, okay? So when we go the paragraphs that are inside of the heading area here, we're gonna say, what I wanted to do, this is the paragraph, yep. And we're gonna say letter spacing, and we're gonna make that, of course, that 0.1 em. And then we're going to give it a line height. This is how we affect the leading. Words are hard and it's late. And I think my voice has had it for the day. That's okay. I was determined to get this video out. All right. So save that. Okay. So I'm going to refresh. And now you'll see that the line height has gone down some, right? To give it just a little bit of space, and it's spaced out in your letter spacing. So that's what that area does. All right. There's a link over here, right here, that you can barely see, but it says your email. We're going to target this link, okay? And remember in the first few videos, you'll see how to link. It goes over linking. it goes over your links and how to create these links and the pseudo links. All right, so in this one, we only have two. We want a hover and a regular link effect. So right here, I'm gonna hover. All right, I'm gonna change the color so it matches everything else to white. And I'm gonna change the font weight. Bold. And then, so I'm gonna save this. And so, oh my goodness, let's save. Yeah, okay. So when we look at this, okay, so the hover effect is happening, right? It is showing up white, which is what we want. So yay. But there's an underline, and we don't want the underline. So we're going to take away the underline. So what the underline is considered is text decoration. So we'll do text decoration. And we're just going to say none. But notice there you got overline, underline. There's even more than this. There used to be blank. Oh my gosh, when you go to those websites and you see it blinking and that bling, that's just how they created that. Crazy. We're going to say none. So let me hover. Okay. So when you hover over it, there is no underline. Actually, I did that in reverse. I didn't realize I was down here. I'm going to copy all this and put that here because that's in our class of heading area A. That's where we want this to happen. In this one, we actually want it to underline when we hover over it. And we want the color to be white. We don't want a font weight here. And then here, we want the color to be, I think we want, let me see. Anyway, the color to be orange to go with our theme. Save. Let's refresh. There we go. All right, so now when we hover over it, it turns white. That's our hover effect. Pretty cool. All right, so now we're gonna stylize these horizontal rules that were created in HTML. We want to add a little bit of style to it. Nothing too fancy, but we're gonna say width of 90%. Okay, just to give it some, just to give it some pizzazz. All right, so I'm gonna save this just so that we can see what happens. Okay. And the next thing that we want to do is we're going to target the border. The border 4 pixels. Got it. And O range. All right, all right. So we got the dotted. Okay, that's not bad. Okay, let's set up. Let's set up some rules for social media. Oops. All right, the border radius 10 pixels. This is just for our social media area. Let's set up the border. 2 pixels. White. Solid. Background color. Oops. The background color, white. And let's set up margins. We got two numbers. You guys know with the two numbers, that means your margin top and bottom. And you're going to mess with your margins left and right. So we're going to say 10 pixels on the top and bottom and 2% on left and right. Save that. Let's see what happens. Oh, shucks. Look at that social media area. Shaping up, shaping up. All right. So now we're going to target Facebook itself, the Facebook logo. So we're going to give it a width and a height of 30%. Oops. Save that. Let's refresh that. There we go. Now our little logo starting to move into place. All right, we're going to do the same thing for a tweet, but I happen to know that they are the same exact rules, so I'm not going to make you watch me type that. I'm going to paste that right there and save that. And then we have a link. It's different numbers, but I'm just going to paste that and then just change the numbers. So the width of that one is 68 and 68. Notice they're all squares. And it's okay. All right, so save that. And let's see what we did. Ooh, look at that. That's the link. Ooh. Ooh, nice little coming together. All right, let's go ahead and set up some rules for visit. We're going to say, we're going to use one that we haven't used yet, text transform. We're going to do uppercase. This is where we do the uppercase. I knew it was somewhere. All right, so text transform, uppercase, and we'll give it font size 110%. Okay, let's check that out. See what that looks like. What we made. Nice. Check it out. All right, so we have just a few more to go, guys, and then we're done. All right, so let's go ahead and set up some rules for our header area. We're going to give it a color. Okay, this is going to be 500, 102. Background image. So this is where we're putting in our first image. Okay, background image. URL. Go ahead and browse, might as well, right? We're going to go into our images folder. And I think this one is the symphony. I'm going to look for symphony. There it is. So this is just an image that's in the background. It's a nice little image. It's going to repeat. You'll see in a second. Make sure you always close out that image, right? So we got that background image in there. Symphony. Let's set up the width. We're going to make it 60%. We're going to make sure that we... Yep. That would have been crazy. I'd have been like, what's going on? What's wrong with my thing? All right, so padding. Two numbers. So that's top and bottom at 0, and left and right is going to be a 4%. Float. You know, the thing that drives everything crazy. We're going to float to the right. And it's just going to get even crazier. Margin, we're doing 4 numbers. All right, so we're affecting everything. All right, so we're saying top's going to be 20 pixels. The right's going to be 2%. Left is going to be 0. Oops. Left is going to be 0. Right's going to be 0. All right. So now what we're going to target is, let me refresh. Nice. Looking good. Looking good. See how that image is in there? I don't know if you can see it on the screen, but you should be able to see it on your computer. There's a nice little image sitting in the top as the background image. So you can get like really, really cool stuff in there. Nice, right? Yeah, right? All right. So we're going to do something to our border bottom, our border top left, and our border top right radius. So we're not going to put a radius on the entire thing, but on the bottom, top left, top right, we're going to give it something. Okay, so let's, I already did margin. So let's go to border. Oops. Goodness. Let's do border bottom. All right, we're going to set the parameters orange. Solid. And then 5 pixels. And then let's do border top left. Oh, gosh. Typing is not, you should not type when you're tired. All right, so border top left radius, we're going to say 20 pixels. And then border top right radius, we're going to say 20 pixels. And you'll see how this works in a second. Okay, so look at our header area now, right, with a nice little image. Once I hit refresh, check it out. What you say? What? All right, so we gave it a border top right and a border top left. Okay, starting to shape up. I know it. All right. H1 font variant is going to be small caps. Letter spacing is going to be 0.2 em, and font size is going to be 120%. So if you are just Speedy Gonzalez, go for it. Usually in class, I'll say ratio, and no matter what you do, I win. So I'm always like, not because I cheat, but because I always win. All right, so small caps. Letter spacing. 0.2 em, and then font size is going to get you 120%. Okay. Pretty easy for that area. I'll show you what happens. There we go. Starting to shape up a little bit. All right, so for name, font family, oops, typing. It's going to be lobster. And if it doesn't find that one, we just wanted to find any cursive font. Font variant normal. Font size. It's going to be 220%. And then letter spacing. Very normal. Okay, we'll see what happened there. Nice. Look at that shaping up. It's starting to shape up, guys. All right. Let me go down to nav. How many more do we have? Oh, awesome. We don't have any more at all. Sweet. I'm looking forward to that because I am tired. All right, so nav. We're gonna give nav a background color. Oops. And the background color is going to be hashtag 500102. You know hashtag's really called an octothorpe. 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 That's a line. Center. Color's gonna be white. Width is 60%. Min height's gonna be 20 pixels. Padding is gonna be 10 pixels, 4%. Float and rewrite. Margin. Oops. It's gonna be 0, 2%, 0, 0. Notice I stopped telling you why. You guys should know it by now. If not, let me know and we can discuss it. I like discussion. I likes it. I likes it a lot. Bottom orange. Got it. 5 pixels. I think that's it for that area, but we shall see. Let's see. Yep, that's it for that one. Okay, save this. Let's refresh. See what we done. Ooh, we're starting to shape up this area up here. Our nav area. All right, so A stands for the link, right? This is the actual link itself. So we want it to be white so that we can see it because that blue was not working. Padding, 0, 2%. Letter spacing. It's going to be 0.2 EM. Text decoration. And remember, this is the underline that's under it. We don't want it. You know, the underline that's under it right now, the underline of blue. It kind of looks ugly and we kind of want to, we just don't want it. All right, text transform. And this is how we make that uppercase. It's going to be uppercase. And then font size is going to be 80%. Oops. Save that. Let's see what we did. Nice. Check that out. It's starting to shape up. It's looking good, guys. Starting to look good. All right. So let's set up our hover state. Color. So when we hover over it, we want it to be orange. We want to give it a little bit of padding. Oh no, not the hover. No, I'm sorry. No. Hover, we don't want padding. We just want text decoration underline. And we want the font weight to be bold. All right, let's check that out. Let's hover over it. Oh, nice. That orange. And see how it underlines? Yeah. All right, that's what we wanted. Moving on. I'm moving down this list, buddy. All right, so for our class of lore, we're going to do border top. And if you're just tuning in and you're tuning into this one, it's not going to make sense to you unless you see the first two. So watch those and you'll see how you set up your HTML so that the CSS matches it. All right, border bottom. The border bottom, we're going to make solid orange 5 pixels. And actually for border top, I went too fast. It's also going to be orange dotted 5 pixels. And notice I didn't put it in order and it still works. You see that? So I didn't have to, there's no particular order that you have to have it in. See, the border top has orange first, the border bottom has solid first. It's it's gonna work. There we go. All right, so for our right info, we're gonna give it a background color with padding, float, and margin. Let's do that. For the background color, it's gonna be 2A, 586A. Okay, and then the so make sure I'm in the right one. Yep, width is gonna be 60%. Padding's gonna be 0.4%. Float's gonna be right. Margin's gonna be 0, 2%, 0, 0. Save that. See that come to action? Oh, look at that. Look at that, right? That's the right info. So that's the information box. And that little bit of code styled that little box. So we got somewhere to go. We got to set up that area as well. So let's see. Set up the paragraph tags that are inside of the right info box. So let's go ahead and set up some paragraph tags. Let's give it a padding left. Padding left, we're going to give it 4%. Padding right, 2%. Now, I could have used shorthand for this. I just like to make sure that you guys can see multiple ways of doing it. Oh, there it is. Okay, moved in a little bit. All right, so now we're getting into our first CSS where we have multiple ones. So experience area, we're going to also target the paragraph first line, education area, paragraph first line. So like I said, you got to watch the first video so that this makes sense to you. It's explained in that. If you still don't understand it, then let me know and I'll help you out with it. But pretty much this is going to say, hey, every first line in the paragraph tag that's inside of the class experience area and every first line inside the paragraph that's inside the education area, apply this rule to me. Okay? So the rule for this one, our first one, we're going to say, oh, I want every first line to have the font weight of bold. Every first line to have the color of orange. Every first line to have the font size of 150%. And every first line to have a margin bottom of 10 pixels. Okay, so when we go over here, we watch the magic happen. Notice every first line, see that? Every first line is following that font size of bold, bold, the font weight of bold, the font color of orange. It's following that font size of 150%, and it's giving it a margin bottom just a little bit of 10 pixels. All right. That's cool. Now let's style our footer. This is our footer. It's all the way over here on the edge. We've styled everything else. Let's go ahead and get this footer together. All right. So in our footer, let's go ahead and set the color. We got quite a few rules to set here. And then we're gonna set 500. I think 102. Trying to commit to memory. We'll see. I did it right. Background image. Okay, URL. Let's browse. Let's grab, for the footer, we're going to grab Symphony again. We're going to make sure that we put our semicolon. Remember, semicolon closes every rule. You have to have that semicolon. All right, don't worry about this text down here. We'll talk about that in a second. All right, so let's give this a width of 60%. Okay, let's give it padding of 10 and 4%. So 10 pixels and 4%. You guys know what that represents, right? The 10 pixels, top and bottom, and the 4% would be the left and the right. I know you know. Let's give it a float of right. Let's give it some margin shorthand. Okay, so we're gonna go 0 to 20, 0. So 0 to 20, 20 pixels, 0. All right, here's where we get to have fun with this border left margin. What I typically will do, if I know I have that same border somewhere, I'll go, oops, dot it. Look at that, dotter. That's why that wasn't working. All right, dot it. All right, then what I'll do is just grab this right here and then just make whatever changes I need to make. So on our bottom state, it's asking for, I'm gonna paste that, but then I'll just change it based off of what we're doing. So we want bottom left, bottom left radius, and we want bottom right radius. Oops. That's what I get. Border bottom, and then border bottom. So this is just saying border bottom right radius, border bottom left radius. I said that backward, but it's the same thing. This is what I want to happen to that. Okay. So let's say font size 80%. And our last one is going to be text align center. Okay, we're going to save that. And now let's look at our site and see where we are. All right, so when we refresh it, and let's look at the site as a whole. Look at that. That is our website. We are finished with our site. Look at that. So you could go in and fine tune a bit further some of the contact info and stuff like that. And once we learn like true responsive design to where it responds to every browser and stuff like that, then you're gonna know how to set that up and fix that. But for now, though, for a pretty quick site, we have a site that responds to the size that we make the browser. And it's a funny thing, though. We talk about responsive design, but really all body is responsive. Like it's going to respond anyway, but we just have to set it up with percentages and stop using fixed numbers so that the sites can respond to whatever you're doing. So here, look at these links. So these are our links that are linking inside of our page. So if we wanted to go to skills, right, we would click on it and it's going to take us to the skills section. So these are like section links that take you whatever section that you have set up. And so these are links. Each one of these are linked. And then this is where we set up the navigation. So it's pretty cool. So that is the CSS for this site, which is awesome. So now you have the CSS to go with the HTML videos. I'm going to go ahead and save this and post it in the inside of Blackboard so that you guys can go ahead and work along with me and set up your demo website, and then you have your homework assignment or your assignment for the week is also in Blackboard as well. So I hope you enjoyed this. I am so sorry that I'm tired. I didn't realize this video wasn't in there, and I just found out as soon as our class ended. So I wanted to make sure I got this video in here for you, especially those of you who are almost finished with your work for the week. So thank you guys. I look forward to working with you guys. If you have any questions, let me know. If you need to do a session, let me know. I am here for you. All right. So good luck. Have fun. Bye.